With a new twist being created every day, you might want to start penciling in those fest dates now, because a taste of Louisiana awaits at every festival on the North Shore.
We're local and entertaining. WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about the Saints draft as well. And breaking it down for us from Fox 8 Sports, Sean Fazende. Sean, welcome. Thanks for being with us as always. This is a great time of year, like Christmas in April, for the Saints as we kind of roll into May here. And looking forward to the next hour, really kind of breaking it down. Of course, we'll go to the phone calls about 15 minutes left in the program tonight, so you can get Sean's take on your questions. The 2017 draft, Sean, and I've talked about it on the radio show all week long. For me, it is kind of a red flag draft. Medical red flags, character red flags. I think when you look at almost every pick, they're not real clean picks when you look at them. And my concern is, with so many medical red flags on these players, the Saints need a strong training staff, a strong medical staff to really make sure these guys are going to be ready to get on the field each and every Sunday, Monday, or Thursday. And what we've seen thus far out of the Saints and the Pelicans is they don't have a strong medical or training staff. Matter of fact, you've seen a lot of players on the way out complain about their medical and training staff. And when you look at it, players have been misdiagnosed. It looks like it takes a little bit longer for them to possibly recover from injuries. And when you're talking about a draft class that I think has got to be an instant impact draft class, that leaves me, a little bit of pause going forward. You've had a chance to evaluate this. You've been neck deep in this for a long time, looking at these players, evaluating these players, looking at the Saints' needs. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you established the built-in criticism because it's there, right? There was some issues with injuries. There's been, that's going to happen in any draft.
Sure.
It's hard to find 100% clean prospects, whether it be from production standpoint, character standpoint, medical standpoint, what have you. That's kind of the dice roll of the draft. So if it does fall flat, and look, we've seen it, right? We've seen players that aren't ready, and it's frustrating to see that, that aren't ready to play, So I think you have a legitimate point. However, first off, I thoroughly enjoyed this draft because I don't know what it was, but it was entertaining. It just for whatever reason was entertaining. Maybe because the Saints had a lot of those picks in the first 2 days. Look, I thought they'd go pass rusher at 11. It didn't happen. And they explained themselves. Look, if you have your third highest graded draft pick on the board at 11, you got to take him.
Yes.
You have to take him. I thought what was more interesting to me was who they didn't take. The fact that they were so open about Patrick Mahomes and Reuben Foster, to me, was just eye-opening. And Mahomes in particular, because, I mean, they basically said, had Marshawn Lattimore been off the board and Mahomes would have been available, they would have essentially taken Mahomes. Like, could you imagine what this show would be like today if the Saints had Patrick Mahomes as their first-round pick? But look at the draft class in its entirety. I gave it a B. I think you're going to have some instant impact players. There was you just wonder where do they not have as big a need of that pass rush as we all thought, or they were just going to trust their board. I think that's the biggest theme you get from this is the Saints are going to trust their board, and they're not going to deviate to reach for a need. I think that's the message we all got from this. Now, whether or not that's right or not, we'll see.
Right.
But I think you can say, at least in that regard, when it comes to the draft, they've been pretty consistent in the fact that the board is the board, and they're going to trust it.
2 points. First, they made a point to say that this is a new regime, that they've made changes in the coaching staff, in the front office, in the scouting staff. Obviously, it looks like the only change they haven't made is in the training and medical staff. Maybe that is to come, especially now with, again, the issues we've seen with both the Pelicans and Saints. You mentioned the situation with Mahomes and Foster. I take a different tack on that. I think they were open because they had to be open. I think that Ryan Palmer busted them. I mean, when you allow two professional golfers into your draft room, and then they're interviewed the next day at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, and they're telling all about what was going on in the draft room, well, then at that point you have no choice but to be able to come clean on Mahomes. I don't know if they come clean on Mahomes if Palmer doesn't come out and say it. And then they had no choice but to comment on the Reuben Foster situation, because it's national news, because Foster told the San Francisco media that he hung up on the Saints coaches when the 49ers traded into that spot to grab him. So I don't feel that there was a lot of transparency there. I just felt that at that point they had to comment on it because it was news. It was out there. Someone outside the organization, which again is very close knit, and it's very tight in there. They're not telling you anything they don't want you to know. That they let the people know. They let the media know. They let fans know what was going on. Let's talk about Mahomes for a second, unless you have a counterpoint.
Well,
to that.
I would just say the Foster thing that Foster talking about his conversation that come out to the next day. Sean Payton had told us they were strongly considering Foster. Now, Mahomes' situation, you're right. Maybe Palmer busted him a little bit, or Spieth busted him a little bit, but still, I think the want to was there for Mahomes. So I think that's very real. So whether or not why they said it, I guess we can debate. But I think to me the issue or the story is the fact that they were that close to getting their next franchise quarterback, which to me, I don't know if that player was available in this class. And now Mahomes is obviously a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, but to me it was just mind blowing to see how much in depth Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis both went on Patrick Mahomes, a player that I like. I think he's got a lot of upside, but by no means do I think he's there yet.
I agree, and this was been my problem if they would have taken him at 11. You're banking on Drew Brees to have 3 to 4 more years of high quality football. Mahomes may be the next Brett Favre. Okay, you've got him for 5 years as a first-round pick under contract. Are you at some point forcing Drew Brees out the door because a clock is running on Patrick Mahomes down the line to get him on the field, to see if he can compete, to see if he's going to be the heir apparent? I think it would have been a bad move with so many needs on the defensive side of the ball to make that pick, especially an early pick like that. And I don't know what kind of message it would have sent to Drew Brees, honestly.
Well, yeah, and then look, again, whether or not they were caught or not, and kind of had to discuss it, the fact is they discussed it.
Yeah.
And, Drew Brees loves the chip. Okay, he may not come out and say it, but he loves that chip on the shoulder, which every player nowadays has a chip on their shoulder. But, the fact that they're that open about it just goes to show where they're at as an organization, that they're not shy about the idea. And even Drew clearly knows that they are searching for the heir apparent to Drew Brees, which, look, rightfully so. we've all seen it. Right. Look, when you're 38 years old, you could be playing great, and all of a sudden one bad hit, it's over.
Right.
So rightfully so.
Great.
But at 11 overall, I just think it would be such a different feel right now in this city had that pick, which almost happened, would have happened.
I would agree. With that said, you had Lattimore on the board, but you had Jonathan Allen on the board as well. And I've said on this program and the radio show, I never thought in my wildest dreams that Jonathan Allen would fall to the Saints at 11. Nor did I think that Lattimore would be there at 11 either. But when you look at the defense itself, and I guess the rule of thumb is never walk away from a quality defensive lineman. This guy dominated the SEC. He dominated at the University of Alabama. Much like Lattimore, he's got red flags with the arthritic shoulders. When you look at Lattimore, he's got the problem with the hamstrings. I was really surprised that they did not go with Jonathan Allen. He has some versatility. If you needed to, you could kick him out. But Sean, you know as well as I do, they're platooning defensive linemen. So you can never have enough good quality defensive linemen. So that was the shocking thing to me. That again, you could talk about Barnett, who went a little bit later. But again, when you have Lattimore and Allen on the board at the same time, they chose to go with the corner. Yeah,
again. What does the board tell you? And I don't know who their next graded player was, short of, from Lattimore to Mahomes. Who was that next player? It sure sounded like it was Jonathan Allen. I guess they went highest grade, and they went with Lattimore. I just think this is a situation. I had Barnett as the Saints guy, but
yes.
I had him as in that next tier past those guys. I think the unpredictability of the draft, it almost was a reverse Andrus Peat situation, right?
Yes.
Andrus Peat, they got caught, right? It was, oh my gosh, everybody in our cloud is gone right before we picked. Now it's, oh my gosh, all these guys are available. And look, with the choice of a cornerback or a pass rusher, they went with cornerback. That's something that's going to be debated for a while. We'll see how their careers turned out, but that you have set yourself up there because it wasn't like you were forced to pick them like you were forced to pick Andrus Peat.
Yes.
You had options right there, and I was surprised to know that they didn't necessarily, they took calls, but they didn't really have any strong interest in dealing back at that point because you maybe get another pick and still get one of those good defensive players. It didn't happen. So I think it's very interesting to see how it's going to all play out. Okay, you pick Lattimore with Allen and Barnett on the board. Those are the names you watch. Watch their careers from here on out.
They are linked forever in Saints history now, how those players will go. And then when you look at the way the draft fell, and we'll get into the players in a moment, the first 10 picks could not have gone better for the Saints.
Best.
I mean, literally, when you're seeing these offensive players go, the first thing you're thinking to yourself is, my gosh, they're going to have a quality defender that's going to fall to them. They're really going to have an opportunity to have, at whatever position they want, they're going to be able to pick maybe one of the top players on the board at that position. But then when you look past 11 and how the draft fell, I mean, you see from
You weren't getting
12,
that lucky again.
No, you were not. From 12 to 32, or really to 31, all these players of need, players that would have fit in perfectly at 32, dropping off the board, one after the other. And that scenario kind of played out almost every round after that. So, early, they got the player, at least the player that they wanted in Marshawn Lattimore. But later on, it did not. And the Saints were not willing, with the exception of the Kamara deal, which we'll get into in a little while, we're not willing to be creative, to move up, move back, to create more picks, to maybe go after the player that they wanted.
Look, we've slammed them for how many years now for constantly moving up, so I can understand them wanting to stand pat at 32. It's almost as if there was such a surprise 1 through 10. The Saints kind of got everything back on track when they picked Lattimore. Then all of a sudden the run on cornerbacks went them. When they got to the 20s, that run on pass rushers went to where all of a sudden you're left, Foster sliding, and all of a sudden, San Francisco jumps up and takes them, and the Saints are kind of stuck with their highest grade, which at that point, I know a lot of people are going to criticize that pick. I'm not sure that was the wrong pick at that point because I don't know that the pass rushers that were available at that point would have matched my grading scale either. So it's amazing how it all felt because as good as it went the first 10, everything kind of fell in line the way it was supposed to after that. And then the Andrus Peat situation kind of manifested itself again. They had to get ramshacked.
Agreed, at 32.
Exactly.
No doubt. Talk to me about Marshawn Lattimore. What do you like? What is your fear about him? Obviously, he had surgeries on both hamstrings. You hope that has solved the problem. I don't like when a coach has to come out and say, well, he's wound kind of tight. Our training staff and medical staff's got to watch him closely. Oh, my gosh. And that's the first thing I thought was, that training staff, that medical staff, oh, come on.
Look, anytime you hear hamstrings, my mind goes right to Dante Stallworth. Okay,
there you go.
So it's a dehydration issue, a hydration issue. They're going to have to figure it out, okay, because he cannot battle this his entire career. You asked me what I like. His catch-up speed is very good. I mean, game-changing good. You know, and when I mean catch-up speed is the illusion that a player is open and he's able to suck that ground up and make plays. I think it was 4 interceptions last year, 19 passes defense, if I'm not mistaken, PBUs. So, look, I can't. To me, it was their second biggest need, and they got the best cornerback in the draft. I think if you were to pull 32 NFL personnel, they'd say he was the best cornerback on the board. Can we really fault him for that?
Right.
So I think Marshawn Lattimore is going to be, now in saying that, I think he's going to have to be a day one starter because I think he's instantly better than everyone on this roster with the exception of maybe a healthy Delvin Breaux. So I think he's got the skill set. He's got decent size at 6 foot. It's just a matter of availability, and that's been kind of the theme with some of these Saints players at times. So hopefully it all kind of works itself out.
I agree with you, Sean. He's got to start day one. I mean, there's no other round. 11th pick in the draft, a position of need. Even going in as a rookie, you've picked the side you're going to put him on, and he's got to be there. And he's got to be there for 10 years for you. Okay.
Yeah.
He's got to be that type of player. He's got to be an anchor. He's got to be a Pro Bowler down the line. I mean, that's got to be the expectation for Marshawn Lynch. I kind of agree with you when it got to 32, though. You know, it was a Andres Pete situation all over again. They got all of a sudden they're probably cheering because they got Reuben Foster in there, and boom, Niners jump in front of them, and it's like, oh no, okay, that's the player available on the board at that point. I wonder how much conversation there was about moving back.
That would have been the time to swap out and get back.
Or make that call to Bill Belichick, which is what I tweeted out during the draft. All off-season long, as there's been a flirtation between the New England Patriots and the Saints about Malcolm Butler, it's been about the 32nd pick in the draft. And I was one that said, do not trade the 32nd pick in the draft, because if you look at all the players that went off the board between 11 and 32, I figured at least one of those players would be there. Well, they weren't there.
No.
So, I mean, at that point, do you have the conversation with Bill Belichick to bring over a Malcolm Butler, and then all of a sudden now your cornerback situation is settled at that point? But they didn't go in that direction. They went with Ramczyk. Well, look, should be your tackle for the next 10 years here. Again, maybe not next year, because I don't see him beating. I don't know if he beats Zach Strief out, and I don't know if he wants Zach Strief off this team, to be honest with you.
Matter of fact, I just spoke to Zach Strief a few minutes ago, as a matter of fact. And Zach is as professional as they come. He's you know, he understands, he knows, and he wants to get Ramczyk ready for that role, because he knows
he's old school that way.
He's old school that way, and look, Zach Strief is, I mean, a 7th rounder out of Northwestern back in 2006 to spend your entire career with one team. That's pretty special. I think he's very self-aware in that regard, and it's what I've always appreciated about him. But I don't think he's going to beat Zach Strief out right away, because he's not going to be ready to get on the field until training camp. He's not going to be able to do any of the OTAs. He's not going to be able to, because of the
arthroscopic surgery on
the core injury.
Right.
So that was a little disheartening, because we're going to go to OTAs now, and we're going to look, and we're going to see off to the side what Scotty Patton is probably going to see. We're probably going to see Ryan Ramczyk doing his drills, and that's kind of become a theme with some new Saints players. But I think ultimately, once that gets cleared up, and once that gets settled, and once Zach Strief runs his course, which he will, Ramczyk can be your starter. You said a 10-year starter for Lattimore. Hey, there's no reason to think he can't be a decade starter at right tackle. And look, he's played left before, and we've seen the injuries with Teron Armstead. So at the end of the day, when the dust finally settles, I think it's a quality selection at that pick.
And you had a chance to talk to Zach Strief for one of your deals with Fox 8-1, and one of the things I mentioned on the radio show this week, and going back to old school, the leadership. When I key in on Zach Strief on the sidelines, one thing that I see is Zach Strief always teaching, always in the ear of the other offensive linemen, the young offensive linemen. Not just that, always talking to young players. And I don't know, that's invaluable now, and I don't know in this new era of NFL players if that's something that's still being handed down. He seems to be an anomaly in a lot of cases.
Well, last year it was maybe the Detroit Lions game. Some of the old Saints came back. Colston walked up to me, shook his hand. We chatted for a second. Vilma came on set with me. We chatted about a half hour after. Strief, I was on my way over here. I heard Heath Evans on the radio. And I think to myself, Man, I miss that locker room so much. I mean, you don't realize it until it's gone. Just how the intangible was just so good in that locker room.
Quality veterans, quality character,
quality character guys. I mean, you could just feel the difference.
Winners.
Now, exactly, and the results obviously spoke for themselves. So, but in this locker room, there has to be a new generation that emerges, and we'll see who those players end up being. But in Strief's case, he's still with the organization. He's still there, so he's going to handle it the right way.
Yeah, no doubt. I do like their second-round pick, Marcus Williams out of Utah. We'll see the jump from Utah to the NFL, but when you look at his measurables, when you look at what he was able to accomplish in college, especially being a guy that can go sideline to sideline, that is a ball-hawking safety, something they have really lacked since Darren Sharper. I do like the pick. What are your thoughts?
I had him mocked. To 76, but I had him mocked. And it's funny because sometimes when you write something down, you see it on tape, and then when it kind of gets validated by what the player says and what the coaches say, it was certainly something. But this guy gets his hands on the football. Game changer. I mean, Saints defense in 2009 ranked 25th in the NFL. I mean, but what was the difference?
39.
Tons of takeaways. And he's got that. And look, what stood out to me was a free safety that can roam. He played a ton of single high, yet he had sideline to sideline range. I can't tell you how many I saw. Not all interceptions, but plays where he's in the middle and he's getting over to the opposite sideline, making a play on the ball. Or my personal favorite, when you are able to get to the opposite sideline, whichever sideline you're going, and it's an overthrow, and you're able to run it down, because those are the types of plays that you're making that can change the game. So I really like Marcus Williams. I thought it'd be a little bit later, but to get a guy like that, which is a skill set they covet and they haven't had, I think it's huge. And I also think it gives them versatility in what they do with their packages. Do they stay big nickel? Do they do a more traditional nickel but keep Vaccaro on the field as a linebacker? I think it gives them a lot of flexibility as to what they can do.
Look in your crystal ball. Tell me what happens with Von Bell and Vaccaro with Williams in this defense.
Well, I think Vaccaro, excuse me one second. I think Vaccaro stays close to the line of scrimmage, either as a run-supporting linebacker slash safety.
Rush the passer?
Rush the passer, and he's not bad jamming tight ends at the line of scrimmage. I don't know. He's never going to be a deep half safety. Von Bell's a little bit better at playing the deep half, but I don't know. He doesn't have quite the stick-to-itiveness, if you will, when it comes to the ball in his hands. Marcus Williams does. So I think ultimately Kenny Vaccaro is closer to the line of scrimmage to the point where we may not even consider him a safety anymore. It's going to be that new hybrid type role that you see in a lot of these guys. It's been their response to the spread offenses. So, look, if you're Dennis Allen, you have a lot of options here, and you've proven you can be creative. So it's time to get to work.
Contract year. Does this mean with Bell and Williams coming on board as young safeties, the Saints may be willing to part with Vaccaro? I mean, I don't believe that. I think that he's got to be in their plans. They put a lot of time into Vaccaro, and he's got a skill set that again, can be utilized in today's NFL's defense.
Yeah, I think they appreciate his leadership as well. I know last year, the close to last season was a dumb mistake, which I understand he's owned up to, and I think the organization has moved on from. But I think, look, he's been pretty consistent in terms of his numbers. I think you know what you have, you know what you don't have. And as a coach, there's no guesswork. So I would think he's a guy you'd want to keep around because of his presence in the locker room, the fact that he was a first-round pick, and it looks good to get those guys to a second contract. But, if he all of a sudden comes in, or he's injured, or he kind of just stinks it up, I could see them moving on from him as well.
I never like giving up 2-for-1 when it comes to draft picks for players, but if Alvin Kamara is healthy, he is about as a can't-miss a prospect as you can have in the draft for the New Orleans Saints because he plays that joker role. They gave up a second-round pick next year, a seventh-round pick in this past draft to be able to get back in the top of the third round. I think it was 67th pick, and they picked Alvin Kamara, running back out of Tennessee, who has the ability to be able to run inside, catch the ball outside. Break him down for us. Do you like the trade?
Love it.
And then tell me about the player.
I love the trade because you move up, but you didn't lose any draft picks this year. And next year is next year. You can always, offseason, get another draft pick via trade, or worry about that next year.
Sure.
So you kept your 7. And Sean Payton kind of alluded to this, is there is absolutely no guesswork with him. You know exactly what he brings. You can visualize it, Eric. You see it. He's a Sproles, Reggie Bush type That could also return.
Which is something they've lacked for the last few years.
And look, as potent as his offense has been, they've missed that, and that is such a key element because it adds another dimension where if you force the Saints to play small ball, you can still make big plays. So I've been all over Alvin Kamara the entire pre-draft process. The Saints have been high on him for a long time when it comes to pro days, private workouts. And I asked Coach Payton after, I said, how close did you come to get him at 42? He goes, it was a deep, deep, deep discussion to get him at 42. He was in their cloud. They must have had Williams a little bit higher. And they thought, they tried multiple times to get back into the second round to get him. And then Loomis said, how shocked they were when he was still available at 67. So ultimately, they were able to get their guy. And I think, look, there's 3 instant impact players. There's Lattimore, there's Williams, and Kamara. Those 3 players contribute right away.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Atlanta's on the clock at 75. They've already got Debo Jones. They go after and they pick Duke Riley. The Saints said that they were poised to take Riley at 76. Instead, they go at Alex Anzalone out of Florida. Again, another medical red flag here. Multiple shoulder injuries. You can throw the broken arm out because that can happen to anybody. But the thing that really concerns me is he wasn't able to stay healthy against SEC competition. When you step up where the players are bigger, stronger, faster, will he be able to stay healthy there? When you look at the measurables, the guy's got great measurables. If he can stay on the field, he could be an impact player. The question is, can he stay on the field?
Talked to a couple scouts. He's got the makeup to be a legitimate starting NFL linebacker. It's just a matter of health. Sometimes that works itself out. Sometimes it doesn't. You're a constant medical red flag. But back to Duke Riley, because I had heard in the pre-draft process of all the LSU players, he was the one that wanted to play for the Saints the most. Hometown kid, went to Curtis, LSU, very New Orleans, wanted to play. And I'm also told that he expressed that to Sean Payton and also told him that Carolina and the Falcons are very hot on him right now. And if you don't draft me, you may lose me out. And sure enough, they lose out to him 1 pick ahead. I thought there were 2 draft choices with the Saints because we're going to get into the LSU Saints debate.
Yes,
there were two legitimate times where the Saints could have picked an LSU player. At 76, it didn't happen. And then the 6th round pick with Malachi Dupree possibly because at that point, he's worth the grade. But it didn't happen. They ended up with Traven Durrell. But in Anzalone's case, I can't really make heads or tails of what the Saints want to do with that linebacker position. And more importantly, I don't think the Saints do right now.
Got a lot of bodies back there.
There's a lot of bodies, and it's almost a sign of we don't know what we have. We got to figure this out, so we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to. Who's the starters? Do we know?
No.
We have no idea. So Anzalone gets thrown in that mix. He's got an opportunity because, as I said, there's no clear front runner anywhere. But it certainly was a situation where it felt like, they took Duke Riley 1 pick before we were going to grab him, and they're stuck with Anzalone.
You really got that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
You really did. Wanted a linebacker. At that point, Riley's up the board. Okay, who's our next guy? Okay? And they went Anzalone, even with the medical red flags. 3rd pick of the 3rd round, the pick that they got in the Brandon Cooks deal, they picked Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end out of Florida Atlantic. Got the motor, got the measurables. Question is competition. If you read about him, you read about the fact that that he went to the coaches and said, "Look, how can I make this team better?" And they put him on special teams. He was blocking kicks, etc. So he's a guy that's all out, the kind of guy you really want on your team. Give me your thoughts on him, and then reflect on this now, because now you're looking at you've ended up with Ramczyk, a tackle, and Hendrickson, a defensive end, for a guy that isn't even reached his prime in Brandon Cooks. So that's what you've received basically for the Brandon Cooks trade.
Yeah, time will tell, huh?
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I think you have one legitimate starter in Ramczyk. I think you have a guy that's probably going to be at least to start a decent rotational guy. I went back and watched a few of his highlights. I watched him in the East-West Shrine game.
That's where he really shined, huh?
Yeah, and I think that's really kind of where he got on the map. So those type of games like that are really good for those type of prospects. Look, he was the pass rusher that they finally addressed. I think it was a surprise. I don't think any people knew about him, short of the guy that shares my last name, Mike Fazende. He had him in his mock, which he made sure to let me know about.
He should let us all know.
Yeah, good pick, by the way.
Yeah, that was.
But I think he's a guy that, you hope he's a motor guy. He's a guy that he can add depth along that defensive line. The thing that really I was most excited about was the block kicks, because if you bring that skill set in the NFL, again, game-changing, timely plays that are the difference between winning and losing, because the line is so thin in the NFL.
And especially when you're looking now at extra points where they are set back, the more of an opportunity to make a game-changing play with special teams.
And look, Peyton, when something like that sticks out, I think that I would have loved to have been in the room, but I bet that was the number one thing he saw, other than the fact that he gets on the field and play defense. Wow, this guy blocks kicks. He's legit. I mean, 4 in 1 year, that's no joke. That's no fluke.
No,
you're doing something right.
You know what you're doing.
Right.
No, I would agree. You like the pick, though?
Yeah, I like to give him what was available.
It was 103, third round.
I don't know. Was Jordan Willis picked at that point? Because he was the guy I had in my head the whole time. I think he was picked. So immediately my mind went to Carl Lawson, and it ended up with Trey Hendrickson.
Right.
I didn't know much about him. Right. So we'll see what happens.
Alquin Muhammad went in the 6th round to the Saints. I had a lot of problems at the University of Miami. Got kicked off the team and had punched a student in the face. Was involved in a rental car controversy. I had a caller who was a really big fan of the Miami Hurricanes this week. Regular listener to my show. Said, look, the kid was not a bad kid. He just was caught in some bad situations. When Mark Richt came out, he tried to sweep the program clean, and this guy got caught up in it. He was supposed to go to Hampton, decided to forget it. I'm going to try the NFL. You look at the skill set. The guy can play football. The question is, has he grown up as a man, and has he played enough college football that it will translate in him being even a designated pass rusher in the NFL? Your thoughts? Yeah,
I mean, this is one of those, I don't know if you call it a risky pick. It's the 6th round. So if it works out, great. If not, you had your 6 guys within the first 103 picks. You like the skill set. When he was on the field, he was productive, 5 sacks. That one season he played consistently at Miami. To me, though, I look at this and say, you know what? If you get anything out of this guy, great. If not, maybe one of the undrafted guys can step in and fill that role. So I can't say I have a high expectation of him. But if he works out and it's a pleasant surprise, so be it.
All right, here's the big question. Team's been 7-9. The last 3 years, 4 of the last 5. When you look at this draft class, when you look at some of the undrafted free agents, I happen to love Travis Durrell, not because he's an LSU player. When you look at Brandon Coleman, his inconsistency, you talk about Durrell coming in before his injury at LSU. This was an all-SEC player. This is one of the better receivers in college football. You get him a couple years removed from that injury, as long as he hasn't lost a lot of speed. He's always been able to catch the football. I think he might have a real good chance of making this team as the 4th receiver. Did this team get better in this draft, in free agency? That you can look at this team with all the other teams getting better within the division, within the NFC South. Are the Saints a playoff team now? Are they better than 7-9 now, Sean?
They're better than 7-9. I thought Vegas got it right, quite frankly, 8.5 over under. Because I think right now I see a 9-7 team, and it's not necessarily because they didn't necessarily get better, because I thought they did get better. But the rest of the conference, or the rest of the division, it's lethal right now.
You saw the playmakers that the other teams
you saw it with Carolina and Tampa Bay.
Right.
And then you saw how lethal Atlanta's getting even on defense with Tack McKinley and Duke Riley. So I think the Saints got better. And I think they got better through free agency, and I think they got better through this draft. The question is, did they do enough to reclaim their spot in the NFC South? All this talk about, the Saints' schedule gets easier after the first quarter. You're in the NFC South. You have 5 more NFC South games after that point. Oh, no. NFC South is going to be a dogfight this year.
And I never buy into that, Sean. Again, people are making predictions about the schedule before you've even got through the draft. You have to get through training camp and see what's going on, see how many players get injured. And because teams change, dynamics of teams change. I mean, it's nice to try to predict what a team can do, before the season starts. But the NFL is an ever-changing league. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll continue the conversation about the Saints. We'll talk a little bit about the undrafted free agents, maybe something that stuck out to Sean that may make this team. We'll also talk about the Malcolm Butler deal. Is it dead? Also, we'll talk a little bit about Alex Okafor and Haloi Kakaha. Are they going to be counted on now, ultimately, to be able to be pass rushers for this team? Because the Saints really didn't address those pass rushing needs until late in the draft. We'll get into that as well. And then we'll go to your phone calls. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. My guest tonight is Sean Fazende. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLE with our live broadcast at 6 p.m. If you're a Cox Cable subscriber, you catch us at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, and then at 9 o'clock on Pelican Sports Television on Friday, 10 o'clock right here on WLE. And if you're up at 2 a.m. in the morning, as I've said before, God bless you, because you can catch us on Cox 130 at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. Sean Fazende is our guest. And Sean, let's talk first of all about Malcolm Butler. Do you think the deal's dead? Do you think at this point the Saints hold off and maybe go after him in free agency next year?
Yeah, I would say, I guess it's not dead, but I think it's closer to being dead than it was pre-draft. You got Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, and the hope is you get a guy like Delvin Breaux back 100%, P.J. Williams 100%, Sterling Moore 100%, and maybe you're set there. If not, maybe they add another body. Who knows? But I look, the price is too high, and it's some things just. I guess fate kind of just sets itself up. It just doesn't feel like it's meant to be. And I just feel like at this point it's just time to move on from that deal.
What about undrafted free agents that you've looked at that may have a chance to make this team? And I've heard a lot of stuff about the linebacker out of BYU. Got a lot of questions about him. I think Trayvon Durrell is and look, I may be wrong at the end of the day. I think he's a cinch to make this team because of need. Okay?
Yeah, I think there's three. Durrell, which tell me he can't be the fifth wide receiver on the team. I mean, he's beaten out Tommy Lee Lewis and Jordan Williams Lambert. He might even be the fourth best receiver on this team because, as you mentioned, with Brandon Coleman. So he's got a legitimate opportunity. The cornerback out of Memphis, who was I think a Bonnable graduate, Arthur Millette.
Yep.
And then the long snapper, Chase Dominguez.
Right.
Because they have Jesse, I think his name is Jesse Schmidt, who was kind of one of those, that happened kind of signing around January.
Yep.
They've moved on from Justin Drescher, it appears. And those three, I mean, he'll have an equal chance to win that job as well. So those three, to me, stand out the most. I don't know much about the BYU linebacker. Right. I've heard about him.
The fact that he was a 4-year starter, I've just had a few people just come up and ask me about him more than anything else. I can't tell you that I know a lot about him as well. Alex Okafor, I'm on record saying I think that this guy is going to have a big year because he has to have a big year.
Bet on me.
All right. I mean, basically, he's playing for his next contract.
He did a bet on me myself contract.
No doubt, he did it. He did a Nick Fairley.
Yeah.
So, I think he will be a guy that can rush the passer for this team opposite Cam Jordan. Haloi Kakaha, after multiple knee injuries and surgeries, I don't know if you can count on him. Hopefully, he comes back. Are the Saints counting on those two guys?
Yeah.
Now?
Yes. I mean, you have to. I thought one of the underlying things when you kept seeing the defensive end getting passed over, pass rusher getting passed over, was the fact that, man, they must think Haloi Kakaha is going to be okay, at least as a situational sub-type pass rusher. Remember, he had 4 sacks and I believe 4 forced fumbles that year he played back in 2015. So when he's played, he has been productive. It's just a big if. 3 ACL tears or 3 ACL tears. Alex Okafor, just go to YouTube and look Alex Okafor highlights and watch.
You like him, don't you?
Watch 20 seconds of him and you'll say, wow, that is the fastest guy on the Saints D-line. Without question, it's not even close. So I think, and he's a contract year guy as well, as you said, the bet on myself contract. So yeah, I think Okafor brings a dimension that they have not had. Combined with the fact you have Sheldon Rankins, you have Nick Fairley, you have Cam Jordan, who's one of the most consistent defenders in the NFL. You have decent depth with Onyemata and Tyler Davison. So I thought pass rusher was their biggest need, but I don't think it's to the point where they're completely desperate right now for a pass rusher. I think they're okay. They could be better, but they're okay in that regard.
Let's talk, before I get into the strengths and weaknesses of this team after the draft, after free agency, let's talk about Adrian Peterson. Signs a 2-year, $7 million per contract, $3.5 million guaranteed this year. It can be up to $8.2 million with incentives if obviously he plays a lot. It's heavy incentive escalator clause type contract. One thing that I liked, he did an interview with John DeShazer the other day on NewOrleansSaints.com. By the way, showed up at Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House when I was there, and I got a chance to see him. And the guy looks like
the part, huh?
Come on, man. I mean, there's not an ounce of fat on this cat. Okay, I mean, he's 32 years old, and he looks like he's 22 years old. Now, I don't know if he's got 22-year-old legs, but time will tell. If over the last couple of years, not putting a lot of tread on those tires, if maybe he's lengthened his career some. But he said he's coming to New Orleans to start. Okay, and I like that. I like the fact that he said he's going to push, he's going to be there, to push for the starting job, that he's not going to accepting a backup role. And I've said this many times before, and I think if you go back in the history of Mark Ingram with the New Orleans Saints, he has always needed a guy behind him to push him, to make him the best back he can be. So this may be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, Saints know that. Angry Ingram, that's the thing. When he's angry, he's a better player. But I've done some research on this because, as I said before, it's so close in the NFL. Winning and losing, it's 7 points, and it's 90% of the games are within a touchdown. And you go look at the Saints' past results. So where does that production come from to gain those 7 points and get back on the winning track? Now, to me, I look at a guy like Adrian Peterson, and I say, okay, that's a clear upgrade over Tim Hightower from last year, who had a good year, 130 carries, 550 plus yards. So if you give, let's say Adrian Peterson hits the 130, 150 carry threshold, I think you're talking about 750 yards. Now, doesn't seem like much, but the Saints have eclipsed 2,000 yards rushing 3 times in the Sean Payton era. It's no coincidence. 2006, 2009, and 2011. Last year, they were about 250 yards short of that. Now, 06, 09, 11, I don't need to tell you what happened in those years. 3 best years of the Payton era. So where do you make up that 250? Well, a guy like Peterson can certainly help you make up that 250. A guy like Kamara can certainly help you make up that 250. So while it may have been the latest free agent signing, it may have been a guy who's 32, is he over the hill? I think the Peterson signing could have a tremendous impact, not just on the offense, but the entire team when it comes to winning and losing. Because, as I said, you need those extra yards to extend those drives, longer drives, more points, more victories. So I think it's a huge signing. And I wasn't completely on board at first, but as I've kind of done the research and done research on him, I think it's a win-win. That's
a crowded backfield now.
It is, but they've always managed to do that. Go back to the 09 year. They had over 400 carries. They split that between Mike Bell, Pierre Thomas, Reggie Bush, and Linnell Hamilton, if you remember him. So Sean Payton has always had a good feel for carry distribution within his backfield. I think you probably have Mark Ingram around 150 to 170, maybe closer to 200. You'll have Adrian Peterson around that number. A guy like Kamara is going to get his touches, whether it be carries or catches. And whoever that fourth line running back ends up being, we'll see. But I think that's a good thing when the Saints offense has that many quality players that you can hand the ball off to.
Trevor Harris-Cadet, Lasco, Murphy, when you look at those guys, those are the guys that are fighting for one spot.
Yeah, and special team will probably be the determinant in that one. I personally think Lasco's the guy if he can stay healthy, because he's a different dimension when it comes to special teams. He's a gunner, and he can play special teams in that regard. Plus, he catches the ball out of the backfield. I just think Cadet and Kamara are too similar, and I just think you moved up for Kamara. I think that's the guy in that role. But yeah, those 3 guys are battling for one spot, and it's going to be it'll be interesting to see it all play out. But things outside of just being a pure running back will likely come into play in that.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's like you mentioned, special teams as well. Which, again, if you look at the Saints, they have made that an objective in this offseason to upgrade those special teams. They've gone out. If you look at some of the pickups that they made in free agency, some of the guys that maybe under the radar pickups, guys that again have a history of playing great special teams. Even last year, when they were starting to stockpile players at the end of the season, pulling players off other teams' practice squads, one common denominator with those players were they all could play special teams.
Again, if you're the Saints and you're trying to get over this hump, you look under every rock, right? And one area you can definitely improve is in the special team return game. So, and obviously get better with Will Lutz kicking field goals, because that's direct points right there. And then if you're better field position when it comes to the return game with Ted Ginn Jr., with Alvin Kamara, I think that's an area they looked at and said we have to get better at, and they've made that a point. And hopefully that happens, because when you have that to this offense, I've always said the problem with the Saints is only the offense is scoring touchdowns. You know, back in 2009, the defense scored touchdowns, special teams scored touchdowns, but with the Saints right now, it's only the offense scoring touchdowns, and they're having to do long drives to get there. So if you can get an impact player in special teams, it certainly helps. Hard to be able to tell, and we'll go to the phone lines now too also. 866-3200 if you'd like to get involved in the conversation, have a question or a comment for Sean Fazende. When you look at this team now, after free agency, after the draft, give me the strengths, give me the weaknesses of this team. What do they have to still upgrade in your opinion, and where are they really solid? I like the offensive line, man. I really do. I like that's a solid starting five. I think you bring a guy like Ramczyk in the mix. I think he's a good sixth offensive lineman. I love the addition of Warford, and I think that sold Adrian Peterson on the Saints as well. If you had one more quality pass rusher, I'd say D-line, but, I mean, look at the D tackles. That's a pretty good foursome there. Right? Corners are a little bit of a question mark just because you just don't know who's healthy, but certainly you've addressed it. I love the safety package, and it's something that they like. Yes. Even down to a guy like Raphael Bush. I love that addition. Running backs, I think that was a position of uncertainty. Now it's a position of strength. Yes, I agree. So, when you talk about biggest weaknesses, I still, like I said before, I can't make heads or tails to the linebackers. I got to see it from Will Lutz consistently. Wide receiver is interesting because you got rid of Brandon Cooks. I don't know that you necessarily got another player to replace him. You got Teddy Ginn, but you got to see how that kind of manifests itself. But that always seems to work itself out regardless of who you have. Yes. So I think overall, when you look at from last year to this year, I think they've upgraded in key areas and hopefully at least to more wins. How big do you think the changes in the coaching staff will be? Huge. I just think they needed a new voice at certain positions. They need more, more output at certain positions. I really like Mike Nolan. I really think that, the one thing that they've done, Sean, is they brought in ex-head coaches to be position coaches in a lot of cases. Dennis Allen was a head coach. Nolan was a head coach. You've got guys that at least have had the opportunity to run teams, and now those guys are going to be teaching certain positions. When you look at both those guys on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, that's a lot of brain power right there. Yeah, and you wonder if he had a lot to do with this large quantity of linebackers. Like, well, let me see what I have here. Let me figure this out. Let me coach these guys up. And then the special teams coordinator. I mean, that has been needed to be done for quite some time. Right. So if all of a sudden, which we saw a little bit last year towards the end, you see Will Lutz all of a sudden, booming him from 55. I mean, I think that's again, that goes back to the thin line between winning and losing, and that certainly helps. All right, let's head to the phone lines. We're going to try to grab every single call before we get out of here this evening. Michael is in Houma. Michael, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. You're on with Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports. Hey, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The Saints used 2 picks just to move up to the third round to get Alvin Kamara. They could have saved themselves 1 pick by taking Elijah McGuire out of ULL, and they would have got the same production, and they would have saved themselves a pick. That's one of my points. The other point is, once they got the 11, there was so many cornerbacks being picked in the draft, they could have waited on the cornerback. They could have gotten Deshaun Watson, and because we're waiting on the quarterback, he's not going to play right now anyway. And even if it comes to a point where they can't use him, they can always get a number 1 pick for Deshaun Watson because he's a high character guy. So I'm going to get off the phone and let y'all.
Thank you. McGuire first. Went 6th round, I think? Yeah, something like that. He would have been a guy, had he been around. I think so, too. In the 6th round, they would have looked at. But I just know throughout the pre-draft process, Kamara they viewed him as a guy in the maybe just a few notches below Christian McCaffrey. Yes. They thought he had the same skill set. And as for Deshaun Watson, you're right. There would have been a quarterback. It just wouldn't have been Watson. It would have been Patrick Mahomes. Right, no doubt. Toby is in Metairie. Toby, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Toby.
Yeah, can you tell me why did Jordan Willis drop to the 3rd round? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
I was surprised.
I don't know.
I was really surprised.
And then so I went back and looked. I said, well, did he have a bad? Did he test bad? No, he burned like a 4.6 if I'm not mistaken. No. Athletic, productive, in a conference that's not known for defense. No. So I was surprised at that, and I thought for sure when the Saints had the first third-round pick, the second third-round pick, the third-round pick, he would have been in black and gold. It just never happened.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by it as well. Tahoma and Greg. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys, I got a comment and then a question.
Sure.
My comment is I love Adrian Peterson only because on 3rd down and 5, when every time Ingram jogs off the field, kind of defense knew what we were doing. Now what's defense going to do when Ingram jogs off the field and Adrian Peterson jogs back on the field? So it puts the defense on their toes. And my question is what about Stephon Anthony? Is it just ego? We're not cutting him? Or we plan on playing him? He's still on a rookie contract, so, I mean, I don't know what you think on that.
All right, take a Stephon Anthony
Still
first.
Too early to pull the plug on that. Remember, he is a first-round pick, and I think they want to give Mike Nolan a chance to coach him up a little bit. We'll see. I don't think his roster spot is guaranteed, so we shall see. And as I said, large quantity of linebackers. He could get lost like he did last year, so we shall see.
Yeah. I kind of think Kamara's going to be that third down back.
Well, he mentioned Peterson.
Right.
Imagine Peterson and Kamara on the field
Right.
on 3rd down. Then what do you do? Then what do you do?
Because you can always, again,
because you can split him out.
You read my mind there, because that was what he did with Bush and Sproles.
Yes.
Opening up holes for the wide receiver is something you haven't seen in a long time by moving that safety, moving that linebacker, and Breeze understanding by moving that guy pre-snap because he's got to deal with the speed of a Kamara in the past of Sproles and Bush. How many times did you see open lanes over the middle for receivers just to go in and catch passes?
Yeah, so that's why I like both of those guys, because regardless of where Peterson is in his career, defenses still respect that guy. And Sean Payton knows what to do with a guy like Alvin Kamara. So on 3rd down, you're going to see both those guys on the field. I can guarantee you they're going to have a few packages like that.
And also the respect, as you mentioned, not just from the opponent, but within that locker room for a guy that's going to be a Hall of Famer. When he speaks, I'm sure that everyone in that locker room is going to listen.
Yeah, I mean, his Hall of Fame credentials speak for themselves, and I think he's looking forward to being productive, but not necessarily having every single person on the defense key on him, not being the focal point of. He's been the focal point of every single offense he's ever played on since he's been to Pee Wee League. So to have a guy like Drew Brees, and the year he had that quarterback quality was the year they had Brett Favre, they played the Saints. So I think ultimately it's great. It's great for everyone involved, because I think veteran leadership. Good player, but not necessarily having to be the focal point, which that's how a running back gets worn down.
I think that's an excellent point, too, as well, Sean, because you're right. He's never been in an offense where he's not going to have to be the guy. There are multiple players on this offense that you're going to have to cover outside of a guy like Adrian Peterson. To Brian and Metairie. Brian, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Y'all doing tonight?
Right. Doing fine, Brian. Thank you.
Basically, I got a comment and a gripe, and I want to hear y'all's answer. I don't know why it seems, and I don't know if it's just personnel. Maybe I'm missing something because I'm not there. I realize I don't really have a big knock on what happened in the draft this year, but I do knock that they said like 2 of our picks, like our first pick, who was the top cornerback on the board, but they said he does have injury problems. Now they had 20 other cornerbacks they could pick from. If you know you got a guy with injury problems, I realize the upside. But, I mean, we haven't had a lot of luck with that. And secondly, it happened right in front of us. We picked a guy, I want to say he's from Florida. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure the way it went. Just had surgery, just had a problem with his arm. Duke Riley's sitting there. We could have took him. And we passed him up. I thought Duke Riley was a no-brainer. I'd have took him over the guy we picked.
Yeah, right.
I just think it just upset me because it's like I don't care what they say. I think there's a problem with LSU players and Peyton.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's
kind of set the record. Duke wasn't available at 76.
Exactly.
He was picked at 75.
By Atlanta. And the Saints wanted Duke Riley. They said it. They were picking Duke Riley. Atlanta picked him in front, and they went with Anzalone. But I do agree, Brian. I think it's a real red flag type draft only because of the medical and character issues and the fact that the Saints and the Pelicans Training staff and medical staff have not proven that they can get these guys on the field and keep them on the field. And you're asking an awful lot out of a medical and training staff that doesn't have a lot of skins on the wall right now. Mike is in Covington. Mike, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I'd like to know Jonathan Allen, a defensive lineman from Alabama. Why did he fall in the draft? Did he have medical issues with his shoulders?
Yes.
And I'll hang up and listen to you.
Thank you. Mike, why don't you take that, Sean?
Yeah, he did have, it was a shoulder issue.
Arthritic shoulders.
Yeah, so he had issues medically, but I honestly think teams coveted offensive players in that top 10 more than they were letting on.
Mm-hmm.
So it really came down to when a quarterback shot up and then when a guy like John Ross gets picked at 9, which I heard before the draft where everyone was pegging Reuben Foster to Cincinnati at 9, that I had heard that he did not do well with Cincinnati in the pre-draft process, so he was off their board. Sure enough, John Ross was the pick. It was more of a surprise with the amount of offensive players going in the top 10, which obviously, as we discussed, was a very fortunate situation for the Saints.
Yep, I agree. Chris, welcome to the show. Chris is in New Orleans. Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Chris.
I think the Saints need a backup. I mean, a backup quarterback.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Chase Daniel is now the backup quarterback. There might have been a rookie that would have been a backup quarterback if they had got their hands on Mahomes. Have they upgraded that position, in your opinion, with Chase Daniel?
I think it's about the same. I really trusted Luke McCown when he was back there.
Mm-hmm.
And that one game he started, I think, obviously showed that. And I think what he brought from a kind of an institutional knowledge standpoint
Yes.
and was a kind of a sounding board for Drew, I think was invaluable. I think you're about the same there. I really do. I think, look, Luke McCown is who he is. He knows he's a career backup. I think Chase Daniel is in that mode. Maybe he's a bridge guy at some point.
Yes.
But I think ultimately, I think you're about the same with the backup quarterback role.
What about Garrett Grayson? Making a break in here?
Oh, yeah. He's going to have to bring it. He's not going back to the practice squad this year.
Yeah.
So if he's not good enough to be the third quarterback, it's probably time to, or the second quarterback, it's probably time to part ways with him.
Final caller for tonight. Gerald is in Lacombe. Gerald, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Gerald.
Hey, guys. Look, it's off the semi-subject, but what I've questioned over the past 5+ years is why is it that now with the change of tight ends actually becoming semi, if not hybrid, wide receivers, and yet no one in the NFL, I mean literally, no one takes a wide receiver at 6'3", 6'6", with good hands, and if they don't make the squad as an offensive player, why aren't they subject to switching to being a cornerback and making the game even? I hope I've been...
No, you did. You explained it. Thank you. It's tough to make that transition in the NFL, right?
In the NFL, and bigger body guys, well, great, they have size. The skill set required for a cornerback, the hip turn, if you're not quick in that regard, you're toast in the NFL. And generally, how those guys make up for it is they're physical, Richard Sherman types.
Yes.
So it's just a hard transition that people realize. And when you're backpedaling a lot, when you're a bigger frame, it's just you're less fluid when you don't know where you're going.
And that diagnosis on a player is usually made in college, right?
Yeah,
I mean, early in college.
Richard Sherman started as a wide receiver at Stanford, and he flipped. But that's by the time you get to the NFL, flipping from wide receiver to cornerback, it's probably too late at that
Maybe
point.
easier that if you got a bigger guy with a bigger frame to move into that tight end position.
That's what I thought. That's where I thought the call was going there, which
right.
I think you can almost say. Marcus Colson was almost that.
Yeah,
A wide
exactly.
receiver tight
Agreed.
end hybrid type. So Evan Ingram is that type.
Yes.
So that is more likely to happen than a guy going to cornerback.
Sean, as always, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Before
It
we
was
get
great.
out of here, tell the folks about Fox 8. Let them know a little bit about what you guys
Download
got.
the Final Play app. We have the Final Play show this week, Sunday at 10:30. Watch all of our shows at 4, 5, 9, and 10. My blog's up there, the After Further Review blog as well.
Thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television at 9 p.m. and at 2 a.m. on Cox 130 on Saturday morning. Catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO. That's 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. weekdays. You can catch us on the TuneIn Radio app. You can download the podcast or listen live at ericasher.com. And remember, every single episode of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be seen at ericasher.com as well. Special thanks to our guest, Sean Fazende. Also the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juneau, Naila Jones, my director William Hill, and also Philip Williamson back at studio. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Eric Asher. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks to Sean Fazende. We'll catch you for another edition next week here on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the